The invitation came on a Wednesday. Claire Morgan had just finished her morning coffee, still in her robe, when she heard the soft thump of the mail slot creaking open. She didn't rush to check it, was always junk. Real estate flyers, coupon books, the occasional sympathy card sent too late. But that day, there was only one envelope. It was ivory white, thick, handwritten in black ink. Claire Morgan. Her name. Nothing else. No return address. The script was elegant, familiar in a way that made her stomach tighten. She carried it to the kitchen table, sat down, and opened it slowly, as if she were peeling something sacred. Inside was a wedding invitation. Letterpress, gold embossed, heavy paper. No monogram. She read the names once, then twice, and dropped the card onto the table. You are cordially invited to the wedding of James Morgan, Elizabeth Heller, to be held Saturday, the 3rd of June, at the Anchorage Estate, Charleston, South Carolina. Her hands trembled. James Morgan, her husband, the man who died 3 years ago in a car crash outside Savannah, the man whose funeral she'd planned, whose ashes she'd scattered at his childhood lake, whose voice she hadn't heard in over 1,000 days except in dreams. Claire blinked at the card. Her coffee had gone cold. She spent the rest of the day convincing herself it was a mistake. A cruel coincidence. Another James Morgan, another Charleston, a sick joke. But something about the handwriting on the envelope tugged at her. She went to the drawer in her hallway where she kept old letter sews James had sent her in college. She dug through the bundle wrapped in ribbon, pulled one out, compared it. Same ink, same slant on the G, same way the capital M curled at the bottom. It was him, or someone trying very hard to be him. That night, she couldn't sleep. The invitation lay on her nightstand like a ticking bomb. She thought about calling someone her sister, maybe. But what would she say? Hey, I got a wedding invite from my dead husband. Do you think I should RSVP? Instead, she poured a glass of wine, sat at the table, and stared at the name Elizabeth Heller. She didn't know any Elizabeth Heller. Had never heard James mention one. She pulled out her laptop. Search. Elizabeth Heller Charleston. There were a few results. A gallery owner. A publicist. A woman with a speeding ticket. But one link caught her eye. A real estate blog featuring a recent profile on the Anchorage Estate, the same venue from the invitation. She clicked. The article was filled with glossy photos of the historic waterfront property, brick archways, moss-draped oaks, candlelit interiors. It looked like something out of a Southern Gothic novel. Halfway through the article, Claire stopped scrolling. There, smiling at the camera, was a couple standing in front of the grand staircase. James, looking older, but alive, and beside him, a tall brunette with bright green eyes and perfect posture. Elizabeth, presumably. Claire's blood ran cold. She zoomed in. It wasn't a Photoshop job. It wasn't some look-alike. It was him, her husband, alive, smiling, engaged to someone else. She felt like the walls of her home were suddenly made of paper. Thin. Breakable. The memories rushed back. The hospital call, the burned car, the coroner's report, the closed casket. No one had seen the body. Not really. Just the ring. The wallet. The ID. What if it hadn't been him? What if he'd staged it? Her hands were clammy. Her vision swam. She stared at the invitation again. Saturday, June Trizard. 3 days from now. The next morning, she packed a suitcase. Just a small one. A pair of black flats. A dress that didn't wrinkle. Her notebook. And the invitation. No one asked where she was going. She left a note on the fridge for the cat sitter. Set the alarm. Locked the door. Then she got in her car, started the engine, and pointed it south toward Charleston. Toward the man she'd buried. The man she wasn't sure she ever knew. The Anchorage estate looked exactly like the picture, if not more surreal in person. Claire parked her rental car 2 blocks away and approached on foot. The main gate stood open, a white arch trimmed in magnolia branches and draped with soft ivory cloth. She paused just outside, heart pounding, breath fogging in the humid Charleston air. It had been years since she'd been in South Carolina, but everything looked the same. The ancient trees leaning over brick sidewalks, the thick scent of salt marsh and jasmine, the slow drawl of voices drifting from porches. It was like time had paused for this place but sped up for her. She stepped through the open gate. Inside, workers bustled like bees. Florists carried bundles of white orchids and garden roses. A man adjusted lighting rigs over the courtyard, shouting instructions to someone on a ladder. Tables were being set with silverware and folded linen napkins in a soft sage tone. Claire kept her sunglasses on. No one noticed her, just another vendor, maybe, or a guest arriving early. She moved carefully, taking in the layout. The house itself loomed 3 stories high, its red brick facade worn but regal. Tall windows with black shutters lined the front, and ivy curled across the southern wall. A broad lawn stretched toward the water, where rows of white chairs had already been arranged for the ceremony. And there, standing beneath a pergola, clipboard in hand, was a woman in her 50s, stylish, confident, a headset in her ear. Claire walked up to her slowly. "Excuse me," she said, keeping her voice light. "Are you at the wedding?" The woman didn't look up from her clipboard. "Yes, but we're not open to guests until Saturday." "Oh, I'm not a guest," Claire said quickly. "I was actually hoping to speak with someone on the staff. My cousin was hired as part of the floral team, but I haven't been able to reach her. I'm worried she might be sick." That made the woman pause. She finally glanced up. "Name?" "Anna Weller," Claire said, inventing the name on the spot. The woman scanned her list. "We don't have anyone by that name. Are you sure she's on the team?" Claire feigned confusion. "She told me she was assigned to prep work today, setting arrangements in the West Ballroom. She may be with the design team." "That's under Mara Winslow." The woman pointed toward a side entrance. "Back through that door. Tell security you're with Creative Flora." "Thank you," Claire said, already moving. The interior of the estate was colder than she expected, both in temperature and tone. The walls were painted cream, trimmed with gold. Portraits of 19th century ancestors stared down from every hallway. It was the kind of place meant for legacy, for stories told over brandy and secrets whispered between floors. Claire wandered deeper. No one stopped her. In the West Ballroom, workers arranged crystal vases and adjusted garlands on the fireplace mantel. A younger woman, curly hair pulled into a bun, knelt on the floor taping table numbers. Claire crouched next to her. "You must be exhausted," she said gently. The girl looked up, startled, then offered a smile. "Comes with the territory." "You with catering?" "Floral," Claire lied again. "Name's Claire." "Oh. I'm Natalie." She extended a hand. "You here for the full weekend?" Claire nodded. "That's the plan. First time working in a state wedding." Natalie laughed softly. "Then you picked a weird one." Claire tilted her head. "How so?" Natalie lowered her voice. "We're not supposed to gossip, but..." "The groom?" "Super mysterious. Apparently, no family attending, no friends. Like, 0. Bride's family paid for everything. All hush-hush." Claire felt her stomach knot. Natalie kept going. "Rumor is he was missing for a while. Just dropped off the map. People thought he died or something. Then poofs back. Engaged." Claire blinked. "Missing?" "That's what one of the planners said. The bride doesn't talk about it, but she's intense. I saw her scream at the photographer over napkin shades." Claire laughed nervously. "Sounds passionate," Natalie smirked. "Or hiding something." Claire excused herself and found the nearest bathroom. She locked the door and sat on the closed toilet lid, breathing shallowly. Missing. So it hadn't just been her. Other people thought James had vanished too. But that raised a bigger question. Why come back now? Why get married at all? Why not stay dead? She pulled the invitation from her bag and reread it. James Morgan, Elizabeth Heller. She hadn't seen him yet, but the proof was mounting. He was alive. He was marrying someone else, and she didn't know why. That night, Claire checked into a small inn a few miles away. She registered under a fake name, Aaron Blake, and paid in cash. The room was clean, modest. A single window looked out toward the harbor. She didn't sleep. She replayed everything: the funeral, the grief, the recovery, the nights she curled into a ball and wished he'd walk through the door. The years she spent building a life again alone. She remembered holding his ring in her palm. She remembered ashes on her fingertips. In the morning, she returned to the anchorage. This time she wore a dress and makeup. Posed as a guest. No one questioned her. She wandered the grounds again, looking for him. At the far end of the gardens, near the dock, she finally saw him, standing alone, facing the water. James. His back to her. Same shoulders, same stance. Same damn posture she used to tease him about. Claire froze. Her hands trembled. Then, as if sensing her presence, he turned. And for the first time in 3 years, Claire looked into the eyes of the man who had once sworn to love her forever. He blinked, froze, then said, "Claire?" "Claire." The name left his lips like a ghost. Half question, half prayer. Claire took a step forward. "Hello, James." Silence stretched between them. The waves behind the dock lapped against the wooden posts, slow and steady. A heron stood on the far bank, still as stone. He looked older, a little thinner, his hair slightly longer than she remembered. But the eyes were the same gray-green, rimmed with disbelief. "I thought you were," he began, then stopped. "No," she said softly. "You don't get to be shocked. I buried you, James." His lips parted, but no words came. Claire took another step closer. Her voice cracked. "Do you know what it's like to sit in a funeral home and pick out an urn for your husband's ashes?" James looked away. "Do you know what it's like," she continued, "to get letters from your insurance company asking if you'd like to cancel the policy early because your spouse is deceased? To stand in front of a lake with your hand full of ash and wonder if it's really you you're letting go of?" He swallowed hard. "Claire, Why?" she snapped. "Why fake your death? Why vanish and leave me behind?" James's voice was hoarse. "I didn't have a choice," she laughed bitterly. "There's always a choice. I was trying to protect you." She froze. The cliché. The line. The excuse. He saw it on her face and raised his hands. "I know how it sounds, but it's true." "From what?" she asked. "The world? Myself? Your lies?" He took a breath. "From her." Claire's pulse quickened. "Elizabeth?" James nodded slowly. Claire folded her arms. "So, let me get this straight. You left me to get engaged to a woman I've never met. And now you're telling me she's the threat." "She wasn't supposed to be," he said. "Not at first." Claire blinked. "You're going to have to do better than that." James looked around. "Not here. Not now. It's not safe." Her eyes narrowed. "Is that why you sent me the invitation?" James hesitated. "Yes. I figured if you came, it meant you hadn't forgotten everything. That you still remembered what happened the week before the crash." Claire's breath caught. "What are you talking about? You were there that night, Claire. You saw what was in the briefcase. You saw the argument." She shook her head slowly. "I don't remember." "You do," he said. "Somewhere. It's in there." Claire took a step back. This was spiraling. Fast. "You think I'm some missing piece in your paranoid thriller?" she asked. "You could have called, written, sent a damn text. But instead you vanish. Let me think you're dead, and now you pull me into what? A conspiracy?" He looked at her then, really looked at her. And for the first time, Claire saw fear. Real fear. "I can't explain everything yet," he said. "But if you stay here, you'll be in danger. Elizabeth, she's not who she says she is. This wedding, it's not about love. It's about control. Legitimacy. She needs my name. My records. My past. She's using you." He nodded. And she doesn't know you're here. That's the only reason you're still safe. Claire felt her skin crawl. I don't believe you. You don't have to, James said. But you should leave, before she sees you. Claire stared at him. You faked your death, James. And you didn't just disappear. You built a life. A new one. With her. It wasn't a life, he said. It was survival. I don't care, she replied, because whatever this is, it's not just your mess anymore. Claire left the estate with her heart racing. She didn't know what scared her more, the fact that James was alive, or the fact that she believed him. Somewhere in the back of her mind, a door creaked open, memories flickering like shadows. The week before the crash, a tense phone call, a package James had locked in the safe, his sudden obsession with privacy, a name she couldn't quite recall. She didn't remember everything, but something was waking up. Back at the inn, she locked the door, pulled the curtains, and dug through her purse for the notebook she always carried. She flipped to a blank page. Things that don't make sense. James is alive. Elizabeth Heller may be dangerous. James says, I saw something I've forgotten. Why send an invitation? Why now? She circled number 4. He wanted me to see something. Or someone. That evening, Claire returned to the estate. This time, she stayed outside the gates, hiding among the low hedges near the rear lawn. She watched as Elizabeth exited the main house. Even from a distance, she radiated control. Hair pinned perfectly, gown flawless. Her heels clicked on the stone pathway like a metronome. She was talking to someone on the phone. Smiling, Claire pulled out her phone and zoomed in with the camera. Snap. Snap. Elizabeth turned suddenly, as if sensing something. Claire ducked. Her heart pounded. After a moment, she peeked back. Elizabeth was gone. Claire returned to the inn. She uploaded the photos to her laptop and searched for image matches. Nothing came up. No social media. No tagged images. No LinkedIn. No public profiles. Elizabeth Heller didn't exist. Not in any official capacity. Not under that name. Claire stared at the screen. She hadn't imagined it. James hadn't lied. Whoever Elizabeth was, she had erased herself. The next morning, Claire woke before sunrise with a single thought looping in her mind. She doesn't exist. Not in public records. Not in images. Not in any of the dozens of search queries Claire had run the night before. Elizabeth Heller wasn't a person, she was a mask. Claire got dressed, packed a day bag, and left the inn. She needed help. Not from police, not from strangers, but from someone who had known James before all of this, before the lies, before the crash, before Charleston. There was only one person who came to mind. Nathan Glass lived 2 hours away. In Columbia, quiet, academic type, James's closest friend from college and best man at their wedding. After the funeral, Claire hadn't spoken to him. Too many condolences, too many reminders. But if anyone could confirm who James had been running from, it was Nathan. She called his office at the university. To her surprise, he answered, "Claire?" His voice was stunned. Jesus. I didn't expect to hear from you. Not after everything. I need to talk, she said. In person, it's urgent. Is this about James? He asked cautiously. Claire posed. Yes. Silence. Then, come to my office. Nathan looked older, too, but not by much. A few more lines around the eyes. Same wire-frame glasses. Same habit of bouncing his knee when thinking. He closed the office door behind her. I don't understand. I thought, so did I, Claire said. But James is alive. Nathan sat down slowly, as if the words weighed 100 pounds. Where? Charleston. I saw him. He's getting married this weekend. To someone named Elizabeth Heller. Nathan blinked. That name doesn't sound familiar. It shouldn't. She doesn't exist. Claire pulled out her laptop and showed him the photos she'd taken. I tried to reverse image search her. Nothing. No social profiles. No licenses. No records of any kind. It's like she was fabricated. Nathan leaned forward. You think she's dangerous? I think James thinks she is. And I think she has something over him. Nathan looked at her for a long moment, then opened a drawer in his desk. He pulled out a file folder. Thin. Old. You're not the only one who's come looking for Elizabeth, he said. Claire's heart stilled. What? Last year, someone came here, claimed to be from a financial compliance agency, asked about a woman who had used the alias Elizabeth Heller during an art auction in Barcelona. I said I didn't know anything. He handed Claire the folder. Inside was a printout. A grainy surveillance photo of a woman walking through a high-end gallery. Slim build. Dark hair. Designer dress. It was her. Elizabeth. But the caption read, Subject, Camila Rhodes, suspected identity fraud, active in international auction laundering. Claire's throat tightened. She's using fake identities to move between countries, she whispered, probably laundering money through high-value assets. Art, estate property, shell corporations, Nathan said. James told me years ago he had met someone during a contract gig in London, said she was charismatic but dangerous, obsessed with influence. I didn't think much of it. Claire stared at the file. You think that was her? I'd bet my tenure on it. Back at the inn, Claire printed out everything. She pinned the images to the wall like puzzle pieces. Elizabeth's wedding photo, the surveillance still from Barcelona, a list of names tied to fake charities James had once investigated, the wedding invitation, and the word Camila Rhodes in the center, circled 3 times. The pieces were connecting. This wasn't a wedding. It was a transaction. That evening, Claire returned to the estate one last time. She wore a simple black coat, pulled low over her brow, stayed in the shadows. She didn't come to watch James this time. She came to find her. She spotted Elizabeth Camille on the second-floor veranda, talking to 2 men in suits. She laughed, but her hands were tight around her wine glass. She leaned in when she spoke, controlling, not warm. Her lips moved fast. The men nodded too quickly. Claire took a picture, then another. She slipped away before anyone saw her. That night, Claire sent an email. To Thomas Avos. Subject, urgent, identity fraud linked to high-level asset laundering. Attachments. 6. Message, you don't know me. But the woman in these photos goes by the name Elizabeth Heller. She is about to marry James Morgan this weekend at the Anchorage estate, Charleston. Her real name may be Camila Rhodes. She has connections to international laundering networks. I believe this wedding is a front for a larger operation. Someone needs to stop it. I am willing to testify. CM. She hit send. And waited. An hour later, her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. You shouldn't have sent that, a woman's voice said. Cold. Controlled. Claire's blood froze. Who is this? I think you know. The line went dead. The morning of the 2nd of June was unnaturally quiet. Claire sat in her rented room, staring at her phone. No reply from Thomas Voss. No response from any agency. Just the echo of that chilling voice the night before. You shouldn't have sent that. She hadn't slept. Hadn't eaten. Camila knew she was here now. Which meant her time was running out. And yet Claire couldn't leave. Not yet. She had to stop the wedding. Not for James. For the truth. For the part of herself that had spent the last 3 years grieving a lie. By mid-afternoon, preparations were in full swing at the Anchorage estate. Guests began arriving in black town cars and glossy rental SUVs. Staff lined the walkways in matching uniforms. Champagne trays passed between hands. A string quartet tuned their instruments beneath a white canopy laced with roses. Claire didn't walk in through the front. She came through the back. The staff entrance she'd memorized on her earlier visits was now guarded by a bored-looking security contractor in sunglasses. Claire waited for him to step away, then slipped in. Inside, the halls were buzzing with tension. She moved quickly, keeping her head down. She knew exactly where she needed to go. James's room. He was alone. standing near the window in a tailored suit, jacket off, staring out at the water. A low hum of classical music played from a nearby speaker. He turned sharply when she entered. "You shouldn't be here," he said. Claire shut the door behind her. "She knows I sent the email." James's expression shifted guilt. Then fear. "She called me," Claire said. "No number, no name. Just her voice. You told me she was dangerous, but you didn't tell me she was listening." James ran a hand through his hair. "I hoped we had more time." "Time for what?" Claire stepped closer. "To escape? To pretend she won't find you again?" James turned back to the window. "You think I haven't tried to leave? I think you should have told me everything the second you saw me." He hesitated. Then he nodded toward a desk in the corner. Claire walked over. A manila envelope sat there unsealed. Inside were papers, real estate contracts, corporate documents, offshore accounts, and a single photo, Camila, smiling beside a man in a dark suit, both holding champagne. The caption on the back read, "Geneva, October 2017. Asset secured. I was hired to investigate her 6 years ago," James said. "Back when I worked with Grafton Partners. They suspected she was laundering art sales through false estates. But I got too close. I thought I could turn her cut a deal. Instead, she turned me." Claire studied the photo. "What does she want with you now?" "She wants my clean record. My name. My signature. Grafton was scrubbed from public history after the agency dissolved, but I still have legal access to their assets, foundations, trusts, shell companies. With me, she can re-enter those circles. So the wedding makes it official." He nodded grimly. "It's the final stamp." Claire stared at him. "And after that?" James hesitated. "I don't know," he admitted. "But no one walks away from her." Later that evening, Claire stood on the edge of the rehearsal dinner, dressed in a borrowed gown, hair pulled back, eyes alert. No one recognized her. Not yet. She moved through the crowd, listening. Fragments of conversation drifted like fog. "The venue is spectacular. He's a bit of a recluse, isn't he? She doesn't seem like the sentimental type." Then Claire heard it. "2 men near the bar. She hired private security. One of them's former Israeli intelligence. Serious types. Any particular reason?" She said there was an uninvited guest she was concerned about. Claire's blood turned to ice. They were looking for her. She needed a distraction. She slipped out through a side door and circled the estate grounds until she found the staff trailer parked in the rear lot. Inside, boxes of equipment, documents, and schedules were stacked against the walls. She broke in through the side hatch, searched quickly, and found what she was looking for. The guest list. She flipped through the pages. Her name wasn't there, of course. But something else was. A page marked, "Alternate Access, Estate Deed Contacts." 3 names. 1 signature. James Morgan. And beneath it, Claire Morgan. Claire blinked. Her name was still listed as co-owner of the Morgan Family Trust, which meant she had legal access to the property. Even now, even after the funeral, Camila hadn't thought to remove it. Maybe she didn't know. Maybe she thought Claire was buried too. She returned to the ballroom. It was late now. Guests had filtered back to the city. The estate was quiet again. Only Camila remained. Standing alone at the edge of the great hall, inspecting a set of diamond-encrusted candlesticks with clinical precision. Claire stepped forward. Camila looked up. Didn't blink. "You must be Claire," she said calmly. Claire didn't deny it. "You called me last night," Claire said. "Why?" Camila smiled. "To give you a choice. Which is? Leave. Or disappear." Claire stepped closer. "You think this is your game? That you've buried your tracks? But you made a mistake." "Oh?" Camila arched an eyebrow. "I still own this estate," Claire said quietly. "By legal trust. I have access. Which means you just trespassed on your own property." Camila finished, lips tightening. "How poetic." Claire held up her phone. "I've already sent documentation to federal counsel. Investigators will arrive. Maybe not tonight, maybe not tomorrow, but they're coming. Camila laughed softly. And what do you think they'll find? A wedding? A happy couple? Claire stared her down. They'll find you. And when they do, you won't have a name left to hide behind. Silence. Then Camila's smile faded. You always were inconvenient, she said. Even in memory. She turned and walked away. Claire stood alone in the ballroom. Candles flickered. The walls closed in. Tomorrow would be the wedding. But it wouldn't happen. Not now. Not with the truth standing right here. The 3rd of June dawned warm and bright, almost offensively beautiful. The Anchorage estate sparkled like a palace in the sun. Rows of white chairs lined the lawn. Musicians in black tuned their instruments beneath a floral arch. Guests milled about in pastel suits and satin gowns, sipping mimosas, laughing softly. The illusion was perfect. But Claire knew better. Inside the grand house, in a locked study upstairs, James sat alone. A single sheet of paper lay on the desk before him. It was a marriage license. His name. Camila's name. 2 signatures missing. The pen in his hand trembled. A knock at the door. He didn't answer. The knock came again. Then a voice. James, it's time. Camila. Smooth. Controlled. Deadly. He stood, slipping the pen into his pocket, and walked toward the door. Out on the lawn, Claire stood at the very back, hidden by a wide-brimmed hat and sunglasses. Her heart hammered as the ceremony began. The music rose. The guests turned their heads. Camila emerged, glowing in silk white, arm linked with a man Claire didn't recognize. Her smile was flawless. Her steps precise, but Claire saw it. The sharpness in her gaze, scanning the crowd, looking for any anomaly. James stood at the altar, expression unreadable. Claire's breath caught when their eyes met. Just for a second. A flicker of something passed between them, and then he looked away. The officiant spoke. Words fell like petals. Love, honor, commitment, future. Claire didn't hear them. She watched Camila. Waiting, ready. Then came the line. If anyone has reason these two should not be joined, speak now. And before the sentence could finish, James stepped forward. I do. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Camila froze. Claire's heart stopped. James turned toward the guests. Toward Camila. I can't marry you, he said, voice clear and steady. Because this isn't real. None of it. Not your name. Not this wedding. Not what you've built. Camila didn't move. Her face didn't change. But Claire saw her eyes narrow. You've lost control, James said. And everyone here deserves to know. Murmurs swelled around them. James reached into his coat pocket and pulled out the manila envelope Claire had seen the night before. He handed it to the officiant. Inside is proof of multiple aliases. Fraudulent estates. Corporate laundering connected to Camila Rhodesposing here as Elizabeth Heller. She's not who she says she is. Someone in the crowd shouted, Is this a joke? Camila stepped forward, eyes locked on James. You're making a mistake, she said, softly but venomous. James met her gaze. I made the mistake 3 years ago. Today, I'm correcting it. Claire saw it coming before it happened. Camila reached into her bouquet too fast. Security moved, but Claire was faster. She pushed through the crowd, tore off her sunglasses and yelled, She's armed! Screams. Chows. A gun slipped from the bouquet. A guard tackled Camila to the ground. The guests scattered. Chairs flew. The quartet dropped their instruments and ran. Camila fought, but it was over. Claire stood frozen as the woman who'd haunted her grief was dragged away in silence. Not a scream. Not a tear. Just a look cold and final directed at Claire. And then, she was gone. Hours later, Claire sat beside James on the back steps of the estate. The sky was pink with dusk. The champagne had gone warm and flat beside them. She'll vanish, Claire said. They always do. Maybe, James replied. But now she has a face, a file. A name that doesn't belong to her anymore. Claire looked at him. What happens to you now? He shrugged. I testify. I cooperate. And then, I disappear. You've done that before. Not like this, he said. This time, I'm telling the truth. She nodded slowly. A long silence passed. Then James turned to her. I don't expect you to forgive me. Claire's voice was quiet. Good. Because I won't. He smiled faintly. But thank you. For saving me anyway. Claire stood. Don't mistake it, James. I didn't come to save you. I came to end it. And with that, she walked down the steps, through the garden, past the broken archway and overturned chairs, back to herself, back to a life where the dead stayed buried, and the truth finally had room to breathe.